Hey everyone, and welcome to the Maria Fontana Show. Today I have a special guest with me. She's a dear friend of mine that we met a few years ago online, and we've become so close because we just have brilliant minds and we share brilliancy together. So welcome Karen
Hey,
Sharon to the show. Hi Karen, how you doing?
I am great. I am great. I just love that we're doing this, bringing knowledge and light to the world, right?
I love that. I love it. So, Karen, tell everyone what you do. So, this podcast is specifically for beauty, wellness, holistic practitioners that are either starting or growing their businesses. And I thought your brilliance and experience as a tenant rep, an expert in actually helping people rent and get properties, you explain it better than me. But, guys, listen to this podcast till the end because this is going to be so full of knowledge. I wish someone would have told me this stuff sooner. So tell us about exactly what you do, Karen, and what we need to know.
All right. So I'm a tenant's rep. I have a boutique firm. And what a tenant rep does, it's in commercial real estate. And that
Mhm.
person helps their client find the best space possible by doing a lot of analytics in the area and knowing the comps. Like just like you would buy a house, when you're
Mhm.
leasing, you should know all the comps in the area of what the rents are. So you've got
Mhm.
two things, your rent and your
Mhm.
pass-throughs, which are your triple nets, the NNNs. You'll see that very often when you're looking up sites. You're
Now, what
scrolling.
does that mean? What is
Triple
an
nets are
NNN?
CAM. It's the CAM, tax, and insurance. They call them triple nets because those are the things that are always folded into your lease. So here's the
Mhm.
thing. The reason you want to use a tenant's rep, and I'm going to circle back to some of these. There's really three things I
Okay.
want to talk about today, and we can do another one about specifics in a
Okay.
lease if you want. But with tenant rep, it's very interesting. When I first started out, I've been doing this about 15 years. And when I first started out, I did cold calling. I don't know if you've ever had anyone come into your salon and ask you
Mhm.
what you do, or when your lease is up, do you need to move? Because I can't tell you how many times I've met someone who's like in a C center and
Mhm.
they're doing okay, because it takes time to
Mhm.
ramp up a salon business. You need that
Mhm.
runway time and you
Mhm.
need to have that built into your lease. You cannot just open your doors that day and be paying full rent. So with my
Mhm.
clients, I have this whole system of what I do with them. With them, with their letter of intent. I just feel like I'm throwing a lot of things out here.
That's
So let
okay.
me
Just share it because this is
there's
such
a lot of
important
pieces to this.
information.
You know, you've got the part, Maria, that you teach in terms of how you do the business, all the different pieces. And this is one little piece, but this is the
Mhm.
foundation because if you are upside down in your rent, you will
Oh,
be in downward spiral really quickly and be closing your doors. How many times have you
no.
seen somebody open and under a year they are closed because they realize they cannot keep up and they probably put up their house as the guarantee on that lease and they don't want to lose their house. So
Yeah.
there's so many pieces to this. A tenant rep will help protect you the best they can in a letter of intent, which is that first document that you are doing with the landlord. Let me tell you how I work as a tenant rep. I will cold call, I will go in, meet the owner, see if we click, and see how I can help them. And
Mhm.
I'll leave a card. I'll tell them just give me a call if you're ever thinking you want to move on. But I do check in with them probably quarterly just to see how they're doing. It's just, I know I can help them. And this is the weird thing about using a tenant's rep. It's almost like going to court and
Mhm.
representing yourself and not having a lawyer. Because
Mm.
when you are working with a landlord, there's already money built in for commission. So if you don't have somebody representing you, the person who represents that landlord is taking the entire commission. It's not going back into your rent. You are not getting
Oh,
anything because you don't have someone representing you. And here's the other thing.
interesting.
When you are looking at really class A properties, those landlords are more likely to call back if you have a tenant's rep because they know you're a serious businesswoman. Like here in Atlanta, if I make a call to a landlord, I get a call back immediately because they know I know what my client's financials look like. I know they're able to do a deal on their property. They know
Mhm.
that I think that the co-tenancy on this property is great for this use, whether it's a spa, wellness, or hair. I know that that kind of salon is needed in that area, And that's the lineup is great. There's a boutique. There's a great afternoon women's restaurant. There's like
Mm,
specific things I look for, right? So your
yes.
tenant rep should be doing that for you. They should be going out, finding great properties and bringing them back for you. And a lot of the deals that I find are never on LoopNet. Everybody looks on LoopNet, fill in the blank. My
Mm,
deals are, I know a certain mixed use is getting built. And if you're expanding your studio, your wellness studio, whatever it is,
mhm.
I know that 2 years from now, there's going to be this great property. They haven't even advertised it yet. But I know to get us
Wow.
in that deal and get you killer rent because you're willing to go in early. And I know that these are the demographics. At the end of the day, you as the owner of that business select the site.
Mhm.
But the tenant rep's job is to represent you to that landlord, the best interest of you. So you've got to like your tenant rep and feel like they're going to do a good job for you. But please use a tenant's rep. Don't depend on that landlord's rep that they're going to do a best deal for you, because actually that landlord's rep represents that landlord. They just want to get the most rent they can from you to help
Mhm.
this landlord. They're not on your side in this.
So I will tell you, I've owned 11 salons, all different sizes. I never had a tenant rep. So now I'm thinking to myself, holy shit, I must have got really screwed over these years. I come from a real estate background for my family, so maybe that helped me a little bit. But so the tenant rep is not, so when you drive by, let's say, a beautiful location and you see the sign outside to call for rent or lease, that is the landlord rep
Landlords, the
that you're calling.
landlord's
So how do you,
representative.
okay, so how does someone who's looking to expand or open or move their, so let's just say I said, you know what, Karen, I want to open a new location and I want it to be, 20 chairs, blah, blah, blah. I gave you how would I know to find a tenant's rep? Like, where do I go find one?
That is not the easiest thing to do. And that's probably, people don't know to do it. If you haven't had
Right.
somebody's come into your salon or your studio and said and introduced themselves that they will help you find your next site, that's a tenant rep. If you've not had anyone pop in, you can get a hold of me. People, I'm at y.flourish on Instagram, or if you go on LinkedIn, I'm at Karen Shannon, CRE, because I belong to a tenant rep network and I will hook you up with somebody that will help you in your area. Because again, it's like going to court and not having your own attorney. The other person's got somebody representing them. Why shouldn't you?
Right.
And I'll tell you personally, and this is my opinion out in the community, to
Mhm.
me, if you have a tenant rep, the perception is you are a serious business person. Let me tell you what I ask my clients to do before I will even represent them.
Yes,
I ask them
let's
to
hear that.
do,
I'm
I ask
interested.
them to do a generic um, financial sheet, like something you would get from the bank if you're going
Mhm.
to do a
But
loan.
they should have that anyway if they're in business. Like, so that's what I'm a stickler about. They should have
Right, but
those financial
right,
sheets
right. So
together.
I asked them, I want to see that, because if they're telling me I have the money to do another site, or even
Mhm.
if somebody's new and I'm just starting to work out with them and they've not worked with you, and I'm just saying, well, how are you going to pay for this? So just
Mhm.
do this for
Mhm.
me. Don't put your social security on it. Don't even sign it. This is just for us. It's
Right.
confidential. Because I want to
Mhm.
see where they stand. Because if I see that they don't have enough cash to really get this done, I'm like, are you getting a loan? Do you know that
Mhm.
the average SBA loan, they tell you 45 days? It's more like 3 to 6 months. So you have
Mhm.
to think of your build out time to adjust with that loan. There's so many pieces to this, but your tenant rep
Mhm.
should be helping you think through these pieces, because I need to know that in order to have a conversation with the landlord. Because as I
Right.
said, the landlords know that if I'm bringing somebody, I know they are ready to go. So
Mhm.
that's one thing. Have them do that. And I have them read my exclusive agreement with me. And it basically says that I take very seriously how I represent you out in the community. You don't want somebody going out there and saying crazy stuff. They're not keeping things confidential. You want a tenant's rep that's got a good reputation. Um, so I will, in that agreement, it says that, and it says that anything that you find, I want you to ride around, see what you like. I need to see what your taste is too in things, because your
Mhm.
taste may not be what I think is the best thing to do. But at the end of the day, you do decide. But I try and educate as much as possible through our relationship. And this agreement is for a year, because to be honest with you, right now, the best sites are a sit and wait situation. Now, I
Really?
know people need to get their businesses open, but you don't want to just go into a site and open your business. You want to be at the best site possible. And if it means waiting 8 months, but you're going to be next door to the most popular ice cream shop in your county, you want that site. If that tenant rep is the person who's keeping track with that landlord, they'll look at the rent rolls. What's coming up in the next year? Is there another salon that's not going to renew? And maybe you can do a retrofit in there. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes with your
Right.
tenant. They're looking out for your best interest. The
Mhm.
next thing I'll ask is and you probably, I know you work with your people about this, is what is the occupancy that you're going
Mhm.
for?
Mhm.
What an occupancy rate is, you're looking at what you're projecting you could do in year one, right? So if you tell me, I think I can do $1 million, I can do 100 grand, I can do 200 grand. I don't
Mhm.
care what it is, as long as you have a realistic thought about, because if you're moving a
Right.
salon from one site to another within the same city, yes, you will lose some people in that move, but what's your projection for what you would possibly do that first year?
Right.
Once
And
I
that's
know,
what we work on. Like I
yeah,
work on with that in
exactly.
in the whole business strategy to, get their numbers and their projections right, because it's super important to do the math
Oh,
because you can't do anything else.
no, it's super important. And most people that haven't worked with you don't have those done. They started a
I
business
know.
plan, but they're not really done. 'Cause people hate doing business plans. Oh
I
my
know.
God, business plans are your blueprint to bring you wealth. Like that
Absolutely.
is such an important thing. And I know sometimes it feels like business plans don't have to be 30 pages long. What
No.
kind of version do you do of business
I
plans?
do a very simplified version. It depends where the people are in their business. Like,
Right.
if you're brand new, I have a lot of people who are coming out of private suites. So, like those little suites that are
Yes.
like those cubbies inside of like a big, so I don't want to quote names, but
Whatever.
you know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. So what happens with that is, which is really interesting, and for anyone listening, I'm not against the suite model. What I am saying is this: know what you're getting into because they're uber expensive. And a lot of people they go in as a startup into these suites. The rents are almost 4 times more than if they went to found a private leasing and did a whole fit out themselves. So it's really about being knowledgeable. So without those business plans, I do a very simplified plan. Again,
Oh, I
it
love
just
that.
depends where they are in their business. If they're established, the plan looks one way because it's a growth plan. If they're new, it's a startup plan. But it all comes down to the math, knowing their market, knowing their numbers, because without those numbers, we can't do anything.
Right. And
No.
that's it exactly. And those numbers also help you. Like I'm sure you work with everyone's avatar. Like who is your person?
Mhm.
Is it
Mhm.
like more of a quick cuttery place where you're gonna have people
Mhm.
come in and that's gonna be your model? Or is it
Mhm.
going to be a high touch, high ticket salon or
Right.
wellness or whatever it is you're doing? And it's
Right.
important to know that because your occupancy cost and service should be like when I work with restaurants, I keep their occupancy costs at 6%. In service, you
Mhm.
can be at 10%. In
Okay.
retail, more than that. But what
So
an
what does
occupancy,
occupancy costs mean, Karen? Because a
okay,
lot of
your
people
occupancy
listening, they
rate,
might be novices, so they don't know what
sure.
that means.
I was just going to go into that. Most people don't know this. I've talked to brokers who don't think this way when they're doing their deals. And I was
Mhm.
taught by my mentor that this is the number one thing to do. So your occupancy cost is what I started saying before is when you're projecting what your gross income will be, your occupancy cost is the percentage of that should be your rent. So if
Mhm.
you are doing $1 million and we're keeping you at 10%, you can pay 100 grand a year in rent. And that's all in. That is your base. Because when you're looking at rent, you're looking at two things: your base per square foot. A lot of times in smaller centers, they'll give you, well, this is the cost per month. You want to know what are your triple nets. So it's your base rent, which might be
Mhm.
$30 per square foot, $40 a square foot. In an A
Mhm.
plus center, it could be $70 a square foot, but that might end up being a $2.5 million studio for you, depending on
Right.
how many
Right.
people you have working for you.
Right.
So let's say it's your occupancy then is your occupancy cost, because you're projecting $1 million, is 100 grand a year. So if you split that down, you say, okay, your base is $30 per square foot. So that if you're looking at 1,000 square feet, that's
Mhm.
$30,000 per year, right?
Mhm.
Then you divide that by 12, and that gives you your monthly of what your base, only your base will be. Then you're
Mhm,
looking at those triple nets I was talking about, your
mhm,
CAM. So your CAM is common area maintenance. So that's the
mhm.
lights being on in the parking lot. It's the garbage being picked up. Maybe some places you have to
Snow
pay for the
removal,
trash
maybe.
separately. It's for
Okay.
the flowers out front. It's for it being
Mhm,
clean. So,
mhm,
and then it's your fair share, which is called pro rata, your
mhm,
fair share of insurance and taxes that the landlord has to pay. Now, a lot of people are
mhm,
like, why am I paying this? And I'm like, because you don't own the center.
mhm,
No,
mhm.
you don't own the center. So this person's being rewarded for taking the risk by owning the center. So you are
Yes,
paying
yes.
your fair share of that. And that could be anywhere from $4.50 a square foot to $30 a square foot. I'm doing a deal at a very famous place in another area of the country, and their pass-throughs are $79 per square foot.
Wow.
But it's a calling card. It's a different kind of situation. So I'm
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
those
yeah.
pass-throughs are added on. So say your pass-throughs are $10, your rent is really $40
Mhm,
per square foot all in. So you're looking at that occupancy cost as, let's say, 10% of what
mhm.
you project for your income.
Yep.
10% of that gross income will go towards your rent.
Yes.
If you can get it to 6% with your landlord, which sometimes a tenant rep can do, it's hard to do on your own, that's where you're looking. The other thing you want to do is you really want to always build in your runway time. So I always say we need at least that first year to be a much lower rent so that we can get our people in here. And then we'll go up to that rent. But that
Mhm,
first year, I try and get a percentage of that, depending on what the deal looks like.
mhm,
And then parking is an issue. Like,
mhm.
how many people can you have working in your place of business? Are there 10 employees or is it you? Very different parking equation, where they have to park and how
You
are
know,
they going
that's so
to get parking?
interesting. That is something I've always had a beef with. And I just had a client who she was, a younger stylist, very talented. She had the money because her parents had given it to her. Anyway, long story short, she was obsessed with putting her salon in a certain main street area in one of the shore towns. The red flag that came up for me when I was looking at her business plan, I said, Amanda, do you see there's no parking there? You're opening a salon with 6 chairs. Well, I go, there's no parking. I said, I think you should reevaluate this. Now, mind you, that wasn't my job. I was her business consultant. Do you want to know that business, she's struggling because of the friggin' parking? Now, it's exactly what I had said. Summertime, she has employees. There's no parking. It has been the detriment of that business. I talked to her not too long ago and she said, I should have listened to you. Now, mind you, my expertise is not your expertise, but I can tell you from being a salon owner for 38 years, if you don't have good parking, you're screwed.
You are any business.
You're
It's any business.
screwed.
Because and now in the current evaluation, there's like usually so many parking spots per square footage of a center, right? And if you happen to be in an area of the center where there's some kind of loading situation, you have to look at everything about that space. It's really
Yeah,
important because
it's
it's to
really
your
important.
detriment, but that your tenant rep should be bringing up these issues before you ever sign a lease, or you have something in your lease if it's a parking situation for your staff. Staff
Mhm,
is allowed to park here in this other
mhm,
area that the landlord's going to let you use for your staff so that only customers park in front of you. And it's really difficult too, especially with hair salons like with mine. And also if you're somebody who's doing a lot of laser work or doing some kind of something with cosmetics,
mhm,
um, I have clients that like to have a back door that's got a beautiful awning that people can come in and out of so they're not seen. We have
mhm.
situations, and I've had to like really fight the landlord about, we want pretty parking back here. We're not having the dumpster here. This is what we need. Or
Yes.
even having a special awning over a certain part of the center outside your hair salon, so that if
Mhm,
somebody needs to be picked up or it's raining and it's pouring and it's
mhm.
awful, their hair isn't getting ruined. Those are the
Yep.
kinds of things as a tenant rep I look at for my client.
I love that, Karen. So I'm just curious, what type of size? So for anyone listening that says, you know what, I don't know, do I need a tenant rep? like at what point, how big should someone start thinking about a tenant rep? Like, does
At
it
the
matter,
beginning,
or is
at
it
the
just a
beginning,
shopping center?
at the beginning, when you first start out, find a tenant rep to represent you. You don't even have to have someplace that's built out yet. Like right now, I'm working with a client who is doing a whole new business she's not done before. She came from a
Mhm.
very major corporation. She's doing this new business. And
Okay.
I met her because I was having a meeting. A client of mine has a restaurant. I was in that meeting. I was in that restaurant having a meeting with another client. And this woman was with her family at another table and overheard us. And when I was done, she came over, she said, "Can you come over and talk with my husband and myself?" So I said, "Sure," sat down. And she was like, "I want to do this. And after hearing you, I'm like so scared now." And I said, "Oh, no, no, don't be scared. What is it you want to do?" So, I mean, you can be just starting out and
Mhm.
have a tenant rep because that
Okay.
person, I have people that I found in a terrible C-level center. Like, and I knew they went there because they were rent resistant. I always call it rent resistant
Mhm.
or rent sensitive because you feel
Mhm.
like you don't want to pay that high rent. How are you going to do that? Well, I'm telling you
Mhm.
right now, if you go in a C center, unless you are already famous, it's so much harder to thrive in an offbeat mid-market. You're not really in this city, you're not really in that city, you're like in this funny
Right.
mid-market area, not a lot
Mhm.
around you. That is a hard place to be, and you have to spend a ton on marketing where you could have just put that into your rent and been in the middle next door to Anthropology with your salon or studio. Yes,
Yeah.
it's more expensive, but do you realize the marketing that happens being next door to Anthro's marketing,
Yes.
Lululemon's marketing? Now that is a
Yes.
different kind of center, but I'm like, let's go for it.
Yeah. So, in my opinion, too, on the business end of it, I always tell people it's the location. Your location is important. And even if you have a niche business and they have a boutique business, you still want to be in a good location. That's why,
Oh,
my thoughts. So let's
you
just say
deserve
someone
it.
was,
You deserve it.
you
Just
deserve it.
because
Right.
you're not that big name yet doesn't mean you don't deserve to be there. That's why
Yeah.
you need a tenant rep. Your tenant rep advocates for you with the landlord. One thing I have on my clients do, they have to do a brand book for me. And what a
Mhm.
brand book is the visual business plan. It's basically
Mhm.
showing what, especially if you're new, what does it look
Oh,
like?
yeah.
What's it going to look like inside? I don't care if you use Pinterest. What's your mission? Who is your client? How do you do business? How are you
That's
different
so
from
funny.
somebody
This
else?
is all the stuff I teach everyone. But see, they need all of this for the next step, even to just work with you or someone who's going to represent them to make sure they
Totally.
get the best location.
Yep.
So, what are your thoughts, Karen, on someone new that's starting out and they're thinking about going into a suite? Do you think it's, I mean, you heard my opinion on it. What's your thoughts on them, getting a tenant rep and maybe looking for more of a space that's their own as opposed to going into a suite where they're limited?
Well, a tenant rep is not going to take you to a suite. They're not going to get paid to do that. And to me, that's a totally different business model. I'm interested in
Yes.
somebody who is looking at if they choose the site correctly. As I said, it's not up to me
Mhm.
to choose. It's really up
Mhm.
to you as the business owner because there's
Mhm.
like that gut reaction, the click that
Mhm.
happens. It's
Mhm.
important too. You're going to be living there for
Yeah.
like the next 5 to 10 years,
Yeah.
hopefully, if it's a good spot, right? So
Yeah.
you gotta like the spot. So what did you ask me? Sorry, come
So,
on. Yeah.
like if someone's like
Oh, the
newer
salon
and
studio.
yeah,
I I actually, when I first started out, I used to cold call in those salon studios to find people. And I could tell right away somebody who really they made a bad decision doing that and they know they need to get back out in the community. And I'm not
yeah.
against salon studios at all. It's a
No, me neither.
phenomenal model for somebody who is wanting to do this. It's a whole different play when you're doing
Mhm.
that.
I think it's
But
like a limiting business
I
play.
do
Again,
too.
that's fine if that's what you want,
Yeah,
but you have to also think about that there's other options. So you're definitely limiting your playing field for growth. That's for
right.
sure.
Absolutely. So if somebody's interested in doing that versus going to do an actual their own site.
Mhm.
I haven't really run into that because I find that people that are in the salon studios, they like that slower kind of, to me, it's a little bit slower pace for a lot of people.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I don't know. I could be incorrect. I don't know. I'm not the expert on your industry. I'm expert
Yes,
on sites, but
right.
in terms of the mentality and the emotional part of being in salon studios versus your own site. But I
Mhm.
think that if somebody really knows that they are in a growth mode and they want unlimited income, that they don't want limits on that, the world's your oyster. It's like you can find that pearl and you can really, really have unlimited potential and income on your site. That's the person I want to work with. I've taken several people national
I
based on,
love that.
we were one little site and now they're national. I mean, it's
Yeah.
pretty amazing, but they have to have a growth mindset.
Right. And the opportunities are there if you have the right guidance and the right support.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess as a closing statement, what's the one thing you would tell anyone at different parts of their career in the beauty or wellness space that they are looking to expand to they're looking to expand their business? What's the one thing they should really be looking for in a tenant rep and doing before they even entertain, looking at places?
In a tenant rep, you want to look for someone who is interested in you. They're asking you all the questions because tenant reps who talk constantly about themselves aren't interested in you. You want
Uh,
somebody, their role is to help you, to facilitate your business with a landlord and to aggressively, assertively, ethically do negotiations with that landlord or that landlord's rep. They should have
mhm.
relationships in the community with these landlords. Like the landlord should know who they are. They should know what they bring to the table and ask them who else they've worked with.
Okay.
Talk to the people and ask them, did they follow through? Did you get like weekly, monthly updates? Because with some people, it's a longer model really to get them into the right space. So it could take a year to find the right space, which I know is like, oh my God, but it's true. It can take
Yes.
that long because I could tell you a million stories. But anyway, so that they know they are known in the community. There's
Mhm.
referral, there's people you can call and say, did they do a good job for you? Tell me what the pros and cons were. That it's
Right.
almost like a job interview that you're doing with that tenant's rep. Now, a
Yeah.
lot of people feel like, like I don't know enough to even ask the questions. Well, I've just told you what to ask. Who do
I
they know
love
in the
it.
community? What landlords? What deals have they done? Who give me 2 or 3 people I can talk to see how it was working with you. And if they don't give you an exclusive for you to sign,
Yeah.
that is really important because that means they're sort of working with you. Like my
Okay.
exclusive is pretty damn like I represent you and you represent me, you know? So
So that's
those are the
brilliant.
things.
That's great. I mean, this was so eye-opening, and I think this was something that a lot of people don't know. Again, in my industry, in the beauty and wellness industry, I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that who've had experience with this, but this is um, a great thing to know, because when you don't really know that you need someone to represent you when you are going to look for your location, which honestly, that's like so important. You need your business structure down pat, and then you need someone who's really got your back, who's going to be in your best interest
Yeah.
for your home, because your business, where you're going to be located, is your business home.
Yes,
Wow, I love this.
exactly. Yeah.
So Karen, just refresh everyone's, just tell them again, I'm going to drop everything in the show notes too, where they can connect with you. If they, again, you are in Georgia, but you can refer them out to business or,
Yes. I have
help them.
I have a whole network in the US of tenant reps that I like, that I feel are great. So if you are in a certain area, even if they aren't the person for that area, they will know somebody good in that area. I want to find you help. So the best place is to really get into my LinkedIn. It's Karen Shannon CRE on LinkedIn. Just jump in
Perfect.
there and DM me and tell me you're looking for a tenant rep, and I will work to help you get set up. And again, don't forget, you don't pay the tenant rep. It's a free
I
service.
love
The landlord pays, which seems so crazy. We can talk
I
about that
love
another
it.
time if you want, because that's a whole
Yeah,
other.
this was so educational. I am so glad that we had this conversation.
Me
Karen,
too.
thank you so much for sharing your brilliance and sharing all this enlightening information. I am so grateful. Guys, if this podcast was helpful, if you felt like it motivated you or in any way, please drop us a nice little review and share this out with your community. Again, Karen, thanks for coming. Sending you lots of love, guys. Bye.
Bye.